Hey everyone, and well, hard to believe it, but we are finally there. On Thursday morning, we will welcome back at least some of our students into the building. Some of our students will be remote, but our 2020-21 school year will finally be upon us. And we do have a few updates that we want to share before we get started. And obviously, uh, the reality is that we are in a state of flux and always things are changing. For example, just this week, we got direction from the department on the number of days that a student with a potential positive test has to be fever-free before returning to school. So, which was reduced from 72 hours to 24. So, I'm not saying that as a throwaway. It's just the reality that each week we receive new information. Uh, Something that will be shared out, or if you haven't seen it already, are our bus passes and bus route information, bus numbers. Just so you're aware, bus passes will be distributed at the school. Bus passes and bus routes are not able to be changed at this point. And if students do have issues with their cohorts and we have to change cohorts, it may not necessitate a change in the transportation because transportation is very, very tight. So let's start there, and let's talk a little bit about some of our other updates. So we sent a video earlier this week about parent drop-offs, just so parent drop-offs and student drivers are aware. When they come off out of the parking lot by the student parking lot, the one on the tennis courts side of the building, they will be entering through the door at the end of the B wing. The staircase at that end is down only. So students, if you are entering the building from that side and you have a classroom that is upstairs, you'll have to make your way to the staircase at the center of the building or the staircase down by the gym to be able to go up. Please don't go up the down staircase. As far as masks, when you enter the building, and this is where we'll talk a little about bus drop-offs in a second, masks, we just have to get used to wearing them and you wearing them for long periods of time. It is now 4:30. I am in my office and I am still wearing my mask. I've been wearing it since 6:52 a.m. when I got out of my car this morning and put it on, with the exception of the time where I ate lunch and a couple of minutes where I went outside and took a break. Breaks here are scheduled for mid-morning. They're staggered around 9:50 a.m. For now, mask breaks are all going to take place outdoors, weather permitting. A couple people have reached out and said, well, what if we have a hurricane and it's torrential downpours? We will be working. Again, we're working on a final indoor procedure. The reality is the state has been telling us that we'll be getting a mask break procedure over the next last couple of weeks, but we have yet to see it yet. If a student is really struggling with the mask and really needs to take a break, we're asking that they not do that in the room, that they come to the office and we can allow them to go outside for a minute or two. They'll be supervised because we can watch them right from the office and even go outside for a few minutes with them. Again, we are holding people accountable. I don't mean to besmirch our awesome staff, but it's challenging, and every now and then people will take the mask down thinking it is an appropriate time to do so. And we are really holding people accountable here to share that responsibility of wearing masks. We've really made it a significant professional responsibility to model the use of masks and to maintain distancing requirements when they're in a classroom, when they're in the building, even when they're eating lunch. We realize that some people are very comfortable with each other. They're comfortable with their families. They're comfortable with people in the building with whom they may be very close friends. The reality is masks have to stay on. As far as bus drop-offs, again, as students are dropped off, there are 6 buses that are full-size buses. We have 2 buses that are a little bit smaller. Buses 1 and 2 will be entering through the gymnasium door. Buses 4 and 5 will enter through the main entrance at the center of the building. and buses 6 and 16 will enter through the door at the end of the B wing. Staff will be entering through the main entrance. Buses 14 and 15 will also be entering down by the B wing door, but again, those buses are a little bit smaller, have fewer passengers. One thing we can say about all of this is if we find that one of the entrances is more congested than another, we can certainly make the adjustment. But the reason why we are using all three entrances is to give students plenty of space to enter the building and to get to their first period class safely. That being said, there's no entry to the building until 7:20 a.m. If students are dropped off by their parents who then continue on their way, the students can wait outside. If the bus arrives here a few minutes early, students will be waiting on the bus. Students who get here a few minutes earlier in their vehicles, they'll be waiting in their cars. And even parent vehicles, as you pull around that parking lot, part of the reason why we have that long route around is to give us plenty of room to get students in and out of the building. We will do our best to keep people moving along. And again, if we have to update where one of the buses does the drop off, add a bus to say the gym entrance or the main entrance, we will do so. In terms of breakfast, when students come in the building, there is space for 36 students to be eating in the cafeteria. There are some teachers who are allowing food in the classroom. Most are not, but there are some procedures for what will happen if food is being eaten in classrooms. If students sit at the cafeteria to eat, each seat is marked on the seat, specifically where can be seated. There is also QR codes to designate where students sit. So when students sit down on the marked seat, they will scan the QR code using their iPad, their Chromebook, or their cell phone, and it will register who's at which seat at which time. This will assist us with contact tracing. Again, it's intended to be quick. Breakfast is a quick serve experience. It's not casual brunch. And so we expect students to sit down, to eat quickly. And if they head up to class and they're a few minutes after the start of the first period class because they're finishing breakfast, we're going to be a little bit flexible with that as we iron out the kinks because we want students to eat breakfast. Again, we have typically not had huge numbers for breakfast, but you never know. And if we end up needing more space, we have space outside. We have picnic tables, and those are going to be set up same way, QR codes for students to scan themselves in. As far as water, there's been some question about whether students are allowed to have drinks because we don't have water fountains. Well, the water fountains are not open, but the water filling station is. So if students bring a bottle of water with them, and it's something they can refill, they can use our filling station. To take a drink, there's a proper way to do so, and that's for students to raise the mask over their lips, keep their nose covered with their mask, take the drink, and then lower the mask back over their mouths again. So that is the expectation for how to take a drink. Some students may be looking for our vending machines, and they're not open. We don't have the vending machines open, so that's simply not an option. For students who sign into the library, each seat in the library, much like the cafeteria, has a QR code. In fact, it was Ms. Charpentier's idea that led us to the cafeteria scan system as well. When students go to the library, they sign into the individual seat. This is a requirement. And again, helps us with tracing who is sitting where at any given moment, particularly in some of the more unstructured areas. When we talk about sanitization and the students being empowered to support this, there's an alcohol-based wipe solution to assist with cleaning individual areas or seats. Sorry for the typo. If a student does eat in the classroom, there is a different solution for, because the student will have had his or her mask off to eat. And again, all the desks are 6 feet apart. This is consistent with what's happening in the other schools. The spray solution does need to have a couple minutes of sitting time, 3 minutes of sitting time before it is wiped. And after students use the solution that we're using for cleaning after food or cleaning a teacher desk, we're going to direct them to wash their hands with soap and water They're also able to wear gloves. All of our teachers will have gloves. And this is going to be one of those things that is very similar to what we would do if students were cleaning up in the family consumer science lab, in some of our art labs, and in our chemistry lab. There's also hand sanitizer stations and pumps all over the building. Every classroom has them. Every hallway has multiple ones. And we're asking our kids to make sure they use them liberally. One thing about bathrooms, this is a little different than, we don't necessarily have bathroom monitors at every one of the bathrooms, but if a student enters a bathroom, finds two other students already there, we're asking that they wait outside the bathroom until one of the people exits. And hopefully this is not something we need to really discuss, but there shouldn't be 3 or 4 people in a bathroom at any given point. When students arrive late, you will find in the vestibule, where the doorbell is outside the main office, there are two things about the vestibule that you'll notice are different. One are a couple of signs that have QR codes on them again that will scan a student in. Again, they take out their phone, they take out their iPad, they scan the QR code, and they're off. And they go to class. That QR code generates a message to the main office that allows us to adjust the attendance. They can also walk to the window where there's a talk box and speak directly to the secretaries, but they have to do that before they're granted entry. There's only going to be one student in that vestibule at a time. And again, all tardy students should file in, whether it's for senior privilege or otherwise, through the main entrance. The main office, guidance offices, they're closed to foot traffic during the school day. Appointments are required for entering the building. We've had some people that are showing up and I need to see guidance. We've been a little bit loose with this week, just because people are trying to come in and drop off, paperwork or what have you. But even for something, as we get closer to the start of the school year and we'll have more people in the building, the requirement is going to be appointments only. Yes, there will be emergency cases. And I say we've been loose insofar as people are trying to get things registered and they're here, they leave, they come back with paperwork. We're allowing them in without necessarily an appointment to just drop something off. But as the school year starts, we are really going to need to make sure that people who come into the building do so because they have an appointment or it's some sort of emergency. And so we're saying, do not show up unannounced and assume that entry is going to be granted. We may ask you to leave what you have or put it through the slot in the door to our offices, but the reality is that our appointments are going to be required. We wanted to talk a little bit about corridors, and this is just one of those realities of schools that have opened here in Massachusetts over these last couple of weeks. As far as students walking down the hallway, our kids have about 3 to 4 minutes of passing time. We may be able to even get to classes here even quicker than that. Some schools that have opened are reporting that kids are walking down the hall, they're in masks, but oftentimes they're walking from place to place and they're within 6 feet of each other as they're on the same side of the hallway. We're going to do our best. That's just the reality of what other schools are reporting to us. We're asking students to keep moving, to get to their next places as quickly as possible. And we also realize that students are social creatures. We are going to do our best, but the reality is that the single file transit from place to place has been one of the things that some of the other schools that opened on Monday and Tuesday of this week have said is just not something that is really happening. But compared to the other safety concerns, is not necessarily something people were overly concerned about. But we are concerned about it, and we're going to do our best to keep our eyes and ears open and to make sure that we are doing our very, very best to keep students apart when traveling down the hallway the same direction. Again, close contact for us per the Board of Health is being within 6 feet of any space for 15 minutes or more. All of our desks are 6 feet apart, and passing time is less than 15 minutes, far less than 15 minutes. So we don't necessarily see close contact happening in the corridors, but we will absolutely be doing our best to police this and keep everybody safe. Before this week, we just wanted to remind everybody, remember, keep your iPad, your Chromebook charged, and students, please check school email for Google Classroom invitations and get yourself in that mindset of being ready to go. Lastly, just the schedule this week. On Thursday is a cohorts A and C will be in person. It's a day 6 schedule, which means blocks G, A, B, and C will meet before lunch, and D, E, and F will meet after lunch in the all remote part of the day. The Friday will be a day 7 schedule, which means cohorts B and C are in person. Cohorts A and D will be remote. And before lunch, we'll have blocks D, E, F, and G. And after lunch will be blocks A, B, and C. Next week, we will go to, on Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, we will follow a day 1 and day 2 schedule. Cohorts A and C are in person on Monday and Tuesday. And cohorts B and C are, oh, that's a mistake on the slide. I apologize. That should say cohorts B and C are in person on Thursday and Friday, and cohorts A and D are remote. So I'm going to make sure I change that. In fact, I'm going to change that right now and make sure that we do that right, because that is particularly important. So right there where you saw that, we're going to have to change that. So I apologize for the error. We'll be, I think why we should check things over multiple times, but that's not until next Thursday and Friday. So at any rate, I just want to say thanks to everybody for their undying patience. This has been an incredibly challenging couple of weeks, couple of months, even year. None of us really expected to be here when this all started. You know, in a year, I look back to a year ago and the promise that our school year had for 2019-20, it didn't end that way. But I start this year with the same promise and excitement that I feel every September. Yes, it's going to be different. Yes, we're going to have challenges that are unique and unlike anything any of us have experienced, but we will do our best with you to share responsibility for maximizing our student learning, for minimizing risk, and for giving our kids, our students, your students, collectively, our community, the best experience we can as the sun rises here on this school year. Thanks so much for your time, and I certainly wish you all the best as we get ready for the start of this school year. Thanks a lot, everybody.